But the big one, and like to catch up to
today,
to
literally
today,
to this morning, yeah,
was the Tim Kennedy episode, which we released in December. But that was a unique one because a lot of people disliked Tim, but no one really knew why. It was like almost like the Nickelback effect of, if you will, where people just hated him just because they hated him. Like, why do you hate him? Like, I don't know. I don't like the guy.
And it became there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
it became cool to not like Tim Kennedy. Yeah. Like, if you're a Green Beret, like you're not allowed to like Tim Kennedy, which is weird because just like Nickelback, it was cool at the beginning when he was an MMA fighter. Everyone liked him, and then everyone stopped liking him. So I'll turn this long story a little bit short, but I've essentially ended up reading his book, and I was like, no way. Just no way. Like, those just things aren't real. Like, just and I started, and because nothing in his book made sense, I started watching interviews with him, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, he said he battled 400 Iranian freedom fighters in a valley in Afghanistan. They were getting overrun. He's completely out of ammo. He's crawling on the ground. You know, he's trying to decide, do I need to go to dead Taliban bodies and start, not Taliban, Iranian bodies, and start picking up their weapons so I can continue to fight? I'm like, 400 Iranian, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here. In his book, he claims that he killed 20 guys in a tower and Camp Anaconda, Fob Anaconda, Firebase Anaconda, in less than 48 hours. You would be a military legend if you sniped 20 guys in 48 hours. Not just an SF legend. You'd be a military legend. I can just go on and on about his stories of heroism and him getting wounded so bad that his teammates are begging him to get on the helicopter, but he's like, none of you guys are bad enough to get me on that helicopter. I'm staying. I mean, that's awful movie-like. You know, I've got every hurt guy on a helicopter we ever wanted to get on a helicopter. And again, just go watch the podcast. You'll see how atrocious it is. And he's naming all these names in the book, and I'm like, I know these are BS stories, but I got to check it out. And he left real names in the book. Couldn't believe it. Used everybody's real name. So they were really easy to find, being from that community. And I talked to all of them, and they were like, and I said the same thing. I didn't call them up saying, hey, Tim Kennedy's a liar, and me and you need to prove it. You know, I wanted to be above board. I wanted to do things the right way. And I would say, hey, my name's Brent Tucker, co-host of the Anti-Hero podcast. We're looking into some stories, and I just have some questions for you. And they're okay. Like, were you a part of the convoy in Afghanistan in Tim Kennedy's book? And then, yes, that's me. I am that guy. Did you read Tim Kennedy's book? Every single teammate would go, no, never read the book. Okay. All right. Well, I have some excerpts from the book I'm going to read to you, and I just want to know if they're true or not. And they're like, okay. And so I'd read these wild stories. Hey, did truck drivers poke radiators with screwdrivers to try to sabotage the convoy? And they're like, no, that never happened. Why would they sabotage? That's their own jingle trucks. Why would they sabotage their own jingle trucks? I'm like, yeah, I know. I have to ask these questions just to make sure. Just did Tim Kennedy save an Afghan from an IED with no legs and fired his sniper weapon from the hip, holding off Iranian freedom fighters in an air ambush, and was covered in blood? And then the ground force commander couldn't get him medically evacuated because the U.S. refused to evacuate Afghan fighters. And I didn't even say, oh, by the way, I've never had that problem. I've always been able to evacuate injured Afghans. Didn't even want to insert that. Just ask the question and have them answer and go, no, that none of that happened. Like, he wrote that in the book. Like, I read it from the book verbatim to you. I'm like, no, none of that happened. just over and over and over again. Blew my mind. Later on, I started before the episode, looked into it. He said he has over 20 combat deployments. He has one to Afghanistan, one to Iraq. Technically, he has a second to Iraq, but it wasn't. And he has the Oakleaf Iraq campaign, but it wasn't a combat deployment. It was in a support role. Mm-hmm. He only has 2 combat deployments, not 20. Mm-hmm. He claims to have a Bronze Star with Valor Medal.
That's the most recent egregious one.
That was have
like
one.
A week or two ago.
Claims to be hurt in combat several times. And when I looked into it, like I said, it was a several-hour podcast. So it's even hard to bring in all the bullshit into a short version. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a Purple Heart, and has an excuse why he doesn't.
And the irony is too is like for the amount of embellishing and storytelling, if he actually received a Purple Heart, he wouldn't stop talking about the Purple Heart or a Bronze Star, like truly earned it. Like, hey man, if you truly earned it and you run your mouth, you're not a silent professional, but at least you had earned it. At least you have a Purple Heart. Are you running with it? Yes, but at least you have it.
Right.
Yeah. So you imagine if he actually would have had one, he wouldn't shut up. He wouldn't shut up about it. And which is egregious because you have one, I have one, I have friends that have one. It's like you don't mess with that. Like and by the way, people will check. They will absolutely cross-check.
Yes, they should.
You can 100% cross-check.
Trust but verify.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? And by the way, the amount of stuff he would have cashed in on being a official combat wounded veteran. I mean, like, he would have been even higher in scale or whatever you want to say in profile because it's here it is, And so I think it's those receipts, like you guys have been talking for months. And it's kind of funny too, because I've met him once. He was nice in passing. I think some of the guys had told him who I was only because my battle was with 10th Group Special Forces. Okay. So it's probably that's the Marine who's a producer that was with SF and all that stuff. And so he was nice. He was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Like, hey, it's good to meet you. Like it was actually like, oh, I know who you are. I was like, oh, nice to meet you. And that was it. And then he just kind of walked away, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's crazy. But then it's like when you guys start covering and I start seeing the clips, and I've never really watched a ton of it. I just know of the ether. Yeah. And I'm watching interviews with them and I'm like, oh, of course he's lying. Like, but it's like now after the fact that you guys have done it, but now it's like, watch one interview with him and tell me he's not full of shit. And I've never actually watched an interview, it's just like, I just know of this. I've heard him on Rogan, granted it's just like, he's always like, da-da-da. And I was like, well, a lot of people like da-da-da, whatever, and maybe he doesn't play up as much cause he does play it up, but it's like, like the Afghan evac stuff, we can definitely get into that. Anyways, sorry, continue. That was kind of my note was like, if he had truly had you would have known, like you would have been, that would have been plastered over every t-shirt he's ever made, So, and go ahead.
He eventually makes this rebuttal video basically telling us that we're all doing this for the wrong reasons and for money and fame and, that we're liars. And he has millions of followers. He goes out and tells, millions of people that I'm the actual grifter and that I'm doing this for money and fame and and worse yet, I'm lying about it and trying to bring down another veteran. I mean, if that were true, what a POS type of person would do that. It's a horrible allegation.
And by the way, that's the fear that us guys have, or like that for those 15 years. Like you don't want that rep, even if it's true. Again, going back to reputation. Even if because I've been talking about this since like 2008 with like Lone Survivor, and I've talked with other buddies, that friends there, and it's tough, I get it, especially with the families, but it's like and then some of this other stuff, even with like the Bin Laden raid, it's like I'm starting to hear these things, but I am just an 03, you're just a wannabe piece of shit, and that's exactly the tactic that's been taken with that video. So sorry, I just wanted to that's why it went I think so long. I think that's why our community let it slide, because of exactly what happened. You had a guy with $1 million, and by the way, if you don't verify it, try going to a nonprofit, knowing you're the guy that tried to bring down Tim Kenny because you're a piece of. Well, Tim Kenny called you out, and now your name is out there. And now that's on your reputation, But
he. So, and then he's really good at playing word games. And not word games that would make sense to me and you, but word games that make sense to his base, which is civilians. And so he wrote a post that said, I earned Valor Awards for every single deployment I've ever been on. And by the way, it's just two separate, but he's also claimed to have been on 20 deployments. So do you have 20 Valor Awards? And I made the comment, you don't have one Valor Award. I have your DD-214. And he word played that and said, well, I didn't say I had a Bronze Star with Valor. I'm saying, like, my awards for service, like the write-ups for them were for valorous things I did.
Which makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
His apology video or his explanation video was so bad. But there's a bunch of people that believed him. All the civilians were like, okay, well, there's his answer.
Yep.
Okay,
and another reason why we didn't come out, the civilians, you don't want to bleed over.
There's my answer.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, the Purple Heart, he goes, I never claimed to have had a Purple Heart. I just said I was injured, and I was. And he's like, and he goes, even though I talked to both medics on his team, all of his teammates, no one ever saw Tim hurt. In fact, no. In fact, they have pictures of him, like the very next day on the convoy, when he claims to be covered in blood and guts, looking as clean as can be. And we showed that picture, and smiling and happy. Like, and you just had a near-death experience where your buddies begged you to go on the helicopter, and in your book you said, like, your clothes can essentially stand by themselves because they're covered in your own and the enemy's blood. And there you are, looking like a nice sunny day at the range. It's embarrassing, honestly. And he says, I never said I had a Purple Heart. I just said I was injured. And he goes, and I was injured. And he goes, if you look at my fights and my TV appearances after 2018, like, you can see the discoloring and the scars on my back and all this, and just completely played it off. We eventually pulled up tons of videos of him with his shirt off and no scarring on his back, no discoloration, nothing on his back. But instead of saying that, he gave us a homework assignment to check his back, and we did. So it was just the worst apology video ever. And then that started the tidal wave against Tim Kennedy that just never ended, because there was a lot of people who didn't like him but didn't know why they didn't like him, and now they have evidence. And like, I thought I didn't like that guy, but now I know why. And people, I did research for months before that video came out, and now you have thousands and thousands of very motivated veterans scouring the internet for anything and everything Tim said. And because Tim loves Tim, I don't know if there's ever been an interview he has said no to. So there's tons of stuff out there. And just a month ago, someone found a very small podcast interview of a guy saying, hey, Tim Kennedy, it says here that you're a bronze. And he says, again, adamantly, straight out, I never claimed to have a Bronze Star with Valor device. Well, in this podcast, the interviewer says here that you're a Bronze Star with Valor, recipient. He goes, and he says, yes. He goes, that's awesome. Like what's the story behind that? Like, how'd you earn it? And he goes, well, we were in a firefight, and there was this bad guy, and he was armed, and I shot him before he shot me. And that's his story of how he won a Bronze Star with Valor. It's the craziest, cringiest thing you've ever heard. That clip gets put out and goes absolutely viral.
That's in the last 2-3 weeks, right?
Just 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and you can't deny it anymore. Like, everything the Anti-Hero podcast said about you has turned out to be true. And the things that you really doubled down on, we all knew weren't true. And now we actually have, like, if the smoking gun wasn't enough for everything we said, you said it with your own mouth. And you already said that you didn't say it. Of course, they clipped that together to prove a point. It was bad. And so he eventually made an apology about it real quick, and I will tell you the apology and why you would think like, oh, okay, well he made an apology about it. All is good, right? Let me just read this to you just for a second. I want to take full and unequivocal responsibility for a serious mistake. Over the years, I made public statements and gave interviews in which I unintentionally misstated aspects of my military service. Most notably, I implied directly or indirectly that I had been awarded the Bronze Star with Valor. That is not true, and there is no excuse for it. I never received the honor, and I deeply regret suggesting otherwise. And then he goes on with his apology. Mm-hmm. He wants to take full and unequivocal responsibility for a serious mistake.
Yeah.
Like, if I made a mistake is something you make unintentionally. Mm-hmm. So it's usually, no, you intentionally lied about it. And then I made public statements and gave interviews in which I unintentionally misstated aspects of my military service. No, you've intentionally lied about everything you've done in the military to some degree, some more egregious than others. So it's just, he's not, even in his apology, he can't even fully commit to an apology. Mm-hmm. He basically said, it's my fault, but I didn't mean to do it. Mm-hmm. And of all the things you don't want to apologize for saying you've been wounded several times in combat.
Now, what's the specifics? Because I do want to, like just specifics. He said he was wounded, correct? Not injured. Because, yes. Because now we're playing semantics and
he
games.
Will play semantics, but no, yes.
Yeah. He said he was wounded.
Wounded in combat.
Again, when you say wounded, because some people were like, well, he said, because, again, people that don't live in this world but are kind of tracked, they're like, well, because I was talking with Scott the other day, and he was like, well, he said he was injured. I was like, no, I'm almost 99% sure. I'll check with Brent. I was like, I'm 99% sure he said wounded. And then Scott was like, okay, because Scott was like, I was injured in a combat zone. Yes, is it misleading? It's not, but he has said he was wounded, and wounded, and
I don't even take those semantics. Yeah. I was injured by grenade fragments. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Those are just two of the same words.
Exactly. But I'm saying he'll squirrel himself out.
He will,
which he did.
He will try.
He was like, well, I
he said he took shrapnel from RPGs and grenades and firefight.
Which again, if he actually did, he wouldn't have shut up about it with the Purple Heart.
We'd have had pictures all over Instagram about it. He'd have well documented himself. He's the Kardashian of special ops.
Mm-hmm. So you have two now, which is Purple Heart, Bronze Star with Valor, for sure. Locked and done.
Locked and done.
Yeah.
Lying about 20 combat rotations that he doesn't have. Lying about killing people.
What's the semantic behind that? Is it because did he contract it all? Okay, so is that where I'm trying to where in his mind is he?
Anything, this is how he's going to get around it. Mm-hmm. Anything he's ever deployed with a nonprofit, he did some contract work. Mm-hmm. Anything he did on a JSET, apparently is a combat deployment. Mm-hmm. So anytime he left the States for any reason, apparently he chalks up as a deployment.
Okay. Because that's because I think about that too. I'm like, okay, well, when I tell people, I was like, I did 3 combat deployments, but I did 9 rotations. I'll say rotations because, we still went into a combat zone as a contractor. I went 5 times. Yeah. That's, you want to say as a deployment? Do you want to, that's why I always say rotation. So I was like, it was a rotation, Did we see combat? Yeah, we did actually, as a contractor, we got into, a pretty big firefight. So, and even then it was my base. I'll say it it was my base guys that got in it. We got hit. I went to another spot, that was our react force. So, but that's why I was curious of where that 20 came from. And I assumed what you said was that, which was any trip he took overseas. And you're like, again, that's taking the advantage of what the civilians think. Because that's what he's gunning for is the civilian sector.
He's also has these crazy stories of watching teammates burned alive in combat. Never happened. I've talked to all of his teammates from his 2 combat deployments, one to Iraq, one to Afghanistan. Yeah. None of them watched a teammate burn alive. That's just so crazy. and over the top to say, and in a weird way, he almost says it like a badge of honor, but he's trying to show how horrible combat is, but also how like tough he is, like emotionally. He's admitting to killing
unaliving women and children.
Unaliving women and children.
I still have from David Hooks there. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. I was like, you wrote what? Like my buddies were sending me stuff. I was like, he wrote that? I was like, or he wrote it. I'm like, wait a minute. What? Right. I mean, like, why would you write that? Like, that's insane. Like, not
a woman or women and a child, multiple women, multiple children. This guy, those are called war crimes. So that's a weird flex. One.
Wild flex.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
And by the way,
sorry, go ahead. It's just crazy to lie about things that are a crime and aren't cool, even if they're not a war crime. It ain't cool. And it never happened.
Yeah.
Like, that's so crazy. You know what I mean? That'd be
wild.
Like, I don't even know how to equate that.
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing too, is like there's like mistakes that happen. There's like scenarios. Like there's a guy I was talking to when I was on the firing line back in the Marine Corps, his buddy. And he, by the way, this kid like lives with. So you don't do that lightly. They were in a firefight. He was a saw gunner. They were getting into it. He was looking down the barrel, was squeezing the trigger, and a kid ran out. Like in the middle, out of like behind a car, trying to get away. He hit the kid. Like, you think that guy is writing about how he unalived children? Oh, like he lived with that every day. Even I was sitting there, I'm like, God, that sucks. He's like, yeah, it hit him. And I think to that, like, guys, it's like, you write that you were unaliving women and children. Like, I mean, I've had an incident where I had to stop a guy from bombing a village. He was going to put all the mortar systems and IDF right into indirect fire, right into this, because he tweaked. He just snapped. We were relieving them on a QRF. I was spearheading in, and the guy just wanted to level everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're not doing that. There's women and children there. We're not doing it. So I'm arguing with the staff sergeant, and it's like this. It's wild. I relieved him of command, like over the net. Like we almost started throwing fists because he just kept wanting to bomb, and it's like, and and that happened
just in a blind rage.
In a blind rage, and I'm just like, you can't do that. You can't again. Like, it was my third pump. It was his like first month. It's like, you can't do this. Like, you can't do this. Like, again, it's that morality of like, sometimes the best thing you ever did was not pull the trigger. and now you're like, he's right. I saw that. I'm like, no way anybody wrote that. And he's like, it's in his book. I'm like, that's okay. The other stuff he was full of shit, but you're like, that is so wildly out there. And again, the civilians read it, his fans read it, but it's like, did you read the book, but like guys like me that like, yeah, we know he's full of shit. I never read it, and you're like, what? Like, that's how egregious it's gotten.
Nobody at the DOD approved his book. And of all the things he's become a proven liar about, still has his green beret, still has his long tab, still wears the uniform. No. Can you believe that?
So what is one, that's insane.
That's insane.
Two, but I've been listening to you and Nate and just on his channel, Valhalla VFT, and you probably know a bit more than I do, but from what I understand, it's gone up. Everyone's been told. Now on the sponsorship side, he was dropped like, dropped a bunch of sponsorships.
Right. Black Rifle dropped Staccato, 511. I think Whoopee shoes, FN. Like, he's done in the tactical world. I think We the People holsters is still standing by him.
Yeah, I think USCCR or something or whatever.
USCCA dropped them.
Yep.
Some box like pistol security box company.
Stop box.
Okay, yeah, those two. So be sure to write them and ask them what their problem is. But but what's crazy is, so apparently all these tactical companies have more integrity than USASOC does, because USASOC hasn't dropped them. And you put it in that aspect.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? How could you punish any Green Beret for doing anything right now when you have a guy that's running around like that?
Yeah.
Without any repercussions.
And we noticed this, and I know you guys mentioned it leading up to this podcast, and I've noticed it too. Is like since December, you've seen him cozying up, going to the White House, going to Hegseth, going to all these, and I think you were the one that was like, I was following you. It's like, whoever not Hegseth, it was the other guy.
Mike Waltz?
Yeah, that was like, hey man, you know what's going on, or if you don't, this is what's going on. And we saw the photo with Trump and the wounded veterans, and like there's Tim Kennedy, not even off to the side. And I think that infuriated a lot of people because that infuriated me. I'm like, dude, you do not have a Purple Heart. There's no reason for you to be there. Even if you're like, if you want to be the humble guy, whatever, it's like, dude, you would be like, I brought these guys in. I'm going to stand off to the side because this is their moment.
That's right. And then get to the back of the room, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, you shouldn't even be in the photo. And like, I'm glad you got them there. That's cool. But it's like, you're trying to like, and then it's like, you're not even like off to the side of the photo or behind. You're literally right
next
there,
to the president.
Next to the president. And I knew exactly what he's doing. He's like, I'm glad I'm at the Hill. And you're just like, it's frustrating to watch because of everything that's happening. I think now in our community, it's like, you know what? We're done with it. Like we don't want any other, or we don't want this to happen, say, for the next generation either. And, it's almost like a learning curve. Like, all right, these people got away with it. Social media exacerbates it. You're lying. We can cross check, because there's guys that did that for Vietnam. And they just like, no one can check because there's no one. Well, you're on the local newspaper. Like, who really cared,
Yeah. Right.
It's like that. It didn't go. You're not making money off of these accolades that you never did. And I think that's what's frustrating for guys. Again, we're circling back to it. That did legit work. That don't have the long tab. That don't have the trident. But they're just like, and they're just like, great. This guy gets to lie about everything, and he's meeting the president, and he's getting fucking deals, and he's been full of shit the whole time. By the way, we all knew. And I think again, I guys have asked me like, what do you think of what Brent and them are doing? I was like, honestly, I think they're doing it well. I think it's been a long time coming. Here I am. I'm probably going to get thrown into the fire as well, but here we go. It is what it is. But it's needed to be done. And at the end of the day, it just needs to be done.
If I'm going to do a second podcast on him, and here's one of the reasons. I'm really tired of seeing this comment. Yeah. He lied about his service, but he does good things. So like people give him a pass because of all of the nonprofit stuff he does. Which got me thinking, you think he just stopped lying about all his good stuff in combat? Do you think he just lied about that and just began doing the really hard work when it came to nonprofit and turned the corner? So I did some looking into that. I think you can take I don't want to do a big reveal or anything.
No, yeah. I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. In our next episode, all his nonprofit work may be a lot like his combat work. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that. And one of the reasons I decided to do it was because, he had left the tactical world, and hey, I can't control whatever USOC does. But the way he's cozying up to DC, and DC apparently doesn't know any better, by doing that is so selfish. He is going to bring really good people down with him because they thought he was some hero, and he's not. And it's a very, very selfish thing for him to do. Mm-hmm. So we'll do another episode and expose the nonprofit side of him. Besides that, and the last thing I'll say about the old veteran community is, hey, who's going to police the veteran community? Only veterans can police the veteran community. And I've said this before, and I'm really passionate about this. Mm-hmm. The veteran community really is like the last, bastion of respect this country has. I don't think it's right, but police officers have lost it due to a minority, small fraction, few police officers apparently got lumped in. And, a lot of people don't respect police officers. A lot of people do. But at the end of the day, they've lost it. Well, even though it was only a few, the police didn't police themselves. That's how they lost it. Service to the country as far as like political service, lost respect a long time ago. But guess why? Politicians, parties didn't police themselves and let dirtbags run amok within them. So the only thing we have left in this country that we still respect, and ain't athletes, it's our veterans. We respect them. And if we don't ferociously come out and protect that, then we will lose that too. We will lose it. Because if there's no repercussion for lying for fame and money, then more people will do it, and more people will do it. Like, someone's got to hold the standard. It has to stop somewhere. So I'm really appreciative after we came out with this story, people like Valhalla, with Nate and Jay from the Green Beret Chronicles, and David Hookstead with his podcast, and anyone else who picked it up. I'm grateful for it, because we wouldn't be talking about it now if it was just, maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't if it was just our podcast. But the veteran community got behind something and held the line. And you're continuing that by being willing, to talk about this. And you might take some heat for it. Like, it's not a lot of negative comments about doing it. But as a veteran, and I've known you long enough, you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. I appreciate that.
No, I like I said, I appreciate you. Like I say, you guys doing it, because I think when I went on Anti-Hero and that stuff was you'd already done the episode. I came on in like February or March, and it was cool to see the super chat, but the amount of people that reached out to me after the episode through Instagram, and it was like, it wasn't a ton, but it was enough to be like, guys were in like 3-3, 2-3. They're like, "Oh my God, that's so awesome!"
Oh, yeah,
nice. And it's like, "Thanks for this and that." And honestly, it was a nice thing of being like, you know what, the guys that matter, they care because they're watching Anti-Hero. Two, you can see that veteran community is doing what we're doing now, which is like, you know what, I'm, so for me, like, you know what, like I feels good. You guys really took the leap. And now I think we're just kind of following through, like, yep, we're backing you guys up. Like, Tim
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, like, you know what? He's not wrong. Tim Kennedy's full of shit. Like, by the way, at the very end of the day, he didn't have to do it. He was a Green Beret, UFC fighter, and you're friends with Joe Rogan. You could have rode that into the ground. You would have gotten further just being humble, bragging, like, yeah, I done some stuff.
Right.
Yeah, which most of us do, which is like, we did stuff in our era, but you know what? Guys that worked as a mechanic for 4 years and they got out and got a degree, made a business, good on you. Like, you started companies, you didn't see any combat. The guys all the time, to me, they're like, oh, I didn't see anything. I was like, that's cool, man. You signed the paper.
That's right. You rose your hand, you did it.
You did it, and there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, I got lucky. You push forward, you got, like we say luck, but it's still like you hit the right time. Guys get lucky with the timing of the wars. I could have been, you guys probably know guys in the 90s that served.
That's right.
They didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything.
Say nothing, even like some Delta operators, or Rangers or SF. They're like, I served in the 90s, nothing happened, whatever. Cool. Like you did it. But what you guys are doing, and again, the veteran community, is behind you. Even I feel confident with this too. Like I feel like everyone was in their own little island, and now everyone's together. Like, oh, we're in this gunfight together now. Like I know Delta operators, I know guys, friends, like we have mutual friends in Dev Group. They are like, you're correct. It's like, okay, everyone knows my reputation now. Like I've had my name's out there enough where you can Google me, and also, like just like you, people are going to attack you. It's like, all right, well, if you got to bring it on, but there's nothing out there that I've lied about. It's like I've even downplayed. It's just, I feel like we're all in that same fight together, and I agree with you, especially with the veteran community when it comes to respect. And I think that what you hit the nose on the head was we need to police our own. Yeah. In the last 15 years, we let it run amok.
We did.